YouTube user Mag315 says that I seem to know just about all there is to know about electronics and computers. Do you have any formal training or did you just learn from tinkering? Well, let's be realistic here. To be very, very blatantly honest about it, there's a lot of things that I don't know about electronics. Now, my knowledge of computing is pretty good. I've played in a lot of different computing fields, run a lot of different operating systems, and while there are certainly people out there that could compute me right under the table, there aren't too many of them. In fact, I have kind of a reputation around these parts for being able to solve some very difficult problems. I've been doing the freelance consulting racket since about 1995 or so, and I was working on computers before that time, as I've mentioned in some of my previous answers to other questions, or at least I think they were previous answers. I've kind of lost track. But no, I have no formal training. Most of my experience is from tinkering, from reading books, from doing things along those lines. 101XFM Rogers asks, what is the origin of the Roach Palace name? Did you ever catch your brother watching the Spricket 24 channel? Well, the origin of the Roach Palace name has to do with the fact that shortly after I bought said Roach Palace, I was going over there one night to move a couch out of the kitchen. I'd just been given a couch, and we were going to move it out of the kitchen. And I went over there about 11 o'clock at night, and I turned on the light in the kitchen, and there are roaches all over everything. Clumps of them running across the carpet. Oh, my goodness. So I just I don't like roaches. I'm not a huge fan of bugs in general, and I really don't like roaches. So I just kind of turned the light off, had a shuddering fit of the willies. I hate that pun, but there it is. I shut the door, turned the light off, had a shuddering fit of the willies, and then I kind of quickly went back over to the other house. I got my boots on, my brothers got their boots on, and I'll tell you what, if that would have been probably some kind of an amateur production of River Dance or something. I don't know. It was Roach Palace Dance, I think is what you could call it. And we had a stomping good time. Shortly after that, I bug bombed the heck out of that house, and I've not seen another roach in it since, or at least no more than one or two. And I know that people say you never have just one, and I'm sure there are more hiding somewhere, but the house is easily 1,000 times less buggy than it was. I went over there after setting the bug bombs off about 5 hours later, and just roaches everywhere, dying and making a mass exodus and leaving the house behind. The place was filthy. It was full of roaches. It was unbelievable. Now, as far as the Spricket 24 channel, no, I've never caught the Keykeeper watching that, if that's the brother you're talking about, and believe me, we have plenty of brothers to choose from around here. I don't even know very much about Spricket 24's channel, such as what's on it or anything like that, but I do believe that the Keykeeper is a reasonable fan. If you've got a question for him about that, your best bet would be to ask him over on his channel, which is at Walshmonster 2005. Quick answer to a question here before I start the next segment. YouTube user DOSSman01302 asks, "Hi Bill, just a quickie, how is everything going?" Well, I've been kind of busy at work and stuff like that. I haven't felt like making any more questions videos there for a while, but I'm back right now, and there are things that could be better in my life, but there are things that could be a lot worse too. And so I have no real complaints about how everything is going here. And DadGad0 writes in to ask, "Hi Bill, what is the most challenging and most satisfying electronic repair you have ever done?" There are so many electronic repairs that represented a, I guess, landmark turn in my ability to fix things as opposed to making them worse. As I've said before in some of these videos, I started out, the moment I knew which end of a screwdriver to hold, there wasn't much in this house that was safe, but I soon had to learn that, when things came apart, they had to go back together, and ideally you wouldn't have any pieces left over. I think one of the most challenging things that I remember in recent history, I wouldn't say ever worked on, because there's certainly been a lot of things I was like, wow, I fixed it, I figured this out. And that's been a lot of how I've learned how to do this. So, probably one of the most challenging and most satisfying electronic repairs I ever did was the re-enlivenment of the Dallas DS1287, DS1387, and all of their friends and acquaintances that are used as timekeeping devices in various computers. Now, in the case of the DS1287 integrated circuit, you can still get the 12887 new, which is a drop-in replacement with a few extra features that can be safely ignored. But all the others, like the 1387 and the 1397, they're not made anymore, and the only choice you have is to re-energize them with a new battery. And I can't tell you how many Dallas clock modules I destroyed before I finally got the procedure down pat. And when I finally cracked that thing and I had a working module, I was about the happiest person you can ever imagine. Skipping a couple questions here, some of the entertaining ones, like what is the airspeed velocity of an African swallow, asked by awdtsitalon, which is very clever. YouTube user K64250 asks, if I had all the money in the world, what would I do with it? Well, I'm not really interested in having all the money in the world. Having enough money to get by, and get by reasonably comfortably, and do some of the things that I'd like to do, is more than good enough for me. I'm not really one of these people that's crazy about having money. I don't have a lot in common with many of the people who do have money. And I know that if I had a lot of money, I wouldn't really know who was my friend and who was just hanging around because they admired the fact that I do have money. So I'm not one of those people that if I had all the money in the world, I don't think I'd really want it. I think a lot of it would end up going to charitable causes, to help people out who need a hand up, to get out of a bad situation or something along those lines. Oh, the Kohler22 asks, what state do I live in? I live in Illinois. The YouTube user Josh198869 asks, do you still live at home? And the answer is yes, I do. I did kind of halfway purchase the Roach Palace with thinking that I might move in there on at least a part-time basis, but that plan totally hasn't worked out because the Roach Palace just isn't a livable home. At some point, when I'm done bleeding out money in a rapid fashion from the garage, I will almost certainly look at putting up a house on the Roach Palace property or doing something along those lines. I'm not that unhappy at home. My parents and we get along pretty well. This is kind of an entertaining question from YouTube user Jesse Leonard12345, who asks, can you do a backflip? I don't honestly know. I know that as a youngster, there used to be at my grandparents' house this little neighbor girl who would come out and do cartwheels, and for whatever reason at the time, always wanted to do cartwheels too, but I couldn't happen to do it. So I doubt that I could do a backflip without seriously hurting myself or breaking something, because I do not exactly weigh like a feather. Well, maybe a really, really big feather. Oh, let's see here. GusherB94 says that they don't feel like reading all the comments. Hello there. I'm sure someone already asked this. I know you live in Illinois, but what town or specific portion of the state? It's not impossible to figure this out. I know there are people out there who know. I'd prefer that you didn't try. I ask that you respect my privacy. Enjoy the videos. Don't ruin it for everybody else. And please don't come here because I'm not set up to entertain guests. And entertaining guests is not my idea of a good time anyway. Oh, Howdy0473 asks, I've heard you say you are a fan of David's Farm. So what I would like to know is, do you think YouTube had a good reason for kicking him off? I'm not going to get into the whole Dave's Farm thing. Even today, that is still just an unbelievable mess. You have people on both sides of the argument. You have people that are fans of Dave. You have people that are haters of him. There's no doubt in my mind that the man made mistakes and that some of them were pretty serious stuff. But on the other hand, I am not the judge, the jury, or the executioner. He'll have to answer to somebody else because he's not on trial in my court. I don't even have a courtroom. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, don't turn my channel and don't turn my videos into a David's Farm tit-for-tat debate. The banhammer will swing hard and fast if you do. I'm just giving you a fair warning right now. Don't abuse it. Thank you. 1969 Chevy Malibu asks if I like NASCAR racing. To be perfectly honest, I don't really care. I don't watch it. I don't follow it. I get really irked when my favorite radio program on one of the area stations has been preempted by it, but I don't have anything against it either. I know that people really like it, but I'm not really one of them. In fact, I don't get into any sports of any kind, really. It doesn't matter. Footballs, basketballs, baseballs, golf, whatever you're playing, I'm not really into it. JD Mower Guy 1998 asks, how many computers do you have? Kind of a question I touched on before. More than I care to count. I don't know that I could count all of them, to be perfectly honest with you. YouTube user MrStelmer asks, you mentioned a while back in your other videos that some neighbors complained about the cars you have. Has this been resolved now, and did you get any bad reactions to your garage from the neighbors? Well, I'll tell you what, I certainly better not have. That garage was very expensive, and it made things look better. It's a very nice looking building, so if the neighbors are complaining about that, frankly, I give up. As far as the other thing goes, I hope it's over. I hope it doesn't happen again. I'm not the kind of person that's out to cause trouble for anybody. I don't want to bother anybody, and I don't want anybody bothering me. I just kind of want to go along and do my own thing. And so I hope that this whole business with the cars and the problem on my property is long since behind me. I certainly hope that it doesn't come back to haunt me. You know, the thing that I really wish about the whole thing is that whatever neighbors had this problem with me, that they would have had the intestinal fortitude, or for the texting generation, the guts, to simply step forward and say, you know, hey, we've got a problem with your property. I'm not a spiteful or a vengeful person. Well, not really. I am a closet rager, but that's as far as it goes. I'm not a stupid person either. I'm not going to get myself carted off to jail in some little vengeful act against a neighbor who's annoying me. I mean, if somebody's got a problem, I want them to have the ability to do the right thing and come forward and tell me about it, instead of trying to abuse the legal system and the city administration to get it done. So if any of my neighbors are watching this and you've got a problem with my property, I want you to talk to me about it. I don't want you harassing me from behind a veil. If you've got a problem, you need to come out and talk about it. You need to be forthright. I don't think that anybody here is bent on causing me problems, but you never know who's watching. Mr. Breeze 732 asks, what in the world do you do for a living? I do IT work on a professional basis. It is the job that pays the bills. It is like any other job that pays the bills. It has its high and its low moments, and there are times when I'm really not very happy with my pay the bills job. If it was up to me, I promise you that I would prefer to do freelance consulting full time, because then the jobs that I don't want to take, I haven't got to take them. Nanok22 asks, just curious, what is your IQ? Well, I don't have any idea. I've never had an IQ test in my entire life. I'm intelligent enough to get through life day to day, and I guess that's the best thing that I can say about that. YouTube user jimmccarron asks, what's to become of the 84 Sierra and the 79 Cadillac? Well, in a perfect world, they'd both be fully restored. But in this world, I don't really have the kind of money, the time, or the expertise to do much with them right now. It is practically a given that as long as it is my decision and in my power to decide what happens to them, that someday they will be kept up and restored. In the meantime, about the best I can do is kind of keep them in a holding pattern and, maintain them reasonably well. Start them up, drive them around a little bit. At present, the 84 Sierra is not running. I need to get it going again. Traveling Cub 321 asks, what's the story of the Roach Palace? I kind of touched on that earlier in one of my other answers to a question, how I came to own it. It belonged to an old man who became senile or had a stroke or something and was unable to live at home any longer. When is it coming down? Probably not until a lot more of the garage is paid for and I've got something to do with all the stuff that's inside it.